They told you to be good as if goodness were armor, as if kindness could save you from cruelty, or honesty could buy you peace. But what they never said is that goodness is currency in a world that trades on power. And the moment you start giving it away freely, it loses its value. You think being good keeps you safe, but in reality, it makes you visible a light that attracts both warmth and predators. The world doesn't reward purity. It rewards strategy. Most people wear their goodness like a shield. They think if they're kind enough, patient enough, forgiving enough, life will spare them. But that's not how power works. Power doesn't care about your virtue. It only recognizes boundaries, and those who can't draw them get devoured by those who can. Look around. The ones who talk about being good are often the ones most easily manipulated. They're predictable. They won't fight back. They'll keep saying yes because they've confused decency with duty. There's a quiet tragedy in that kind of goodness, the kind that needs to be seen, approved, and validated. You end up performing compassion instead of practicing it. You say yes to things that drain you because saying no makes you feel guilty. You forgive too soon because you're afraid of being called bitter. You stay loyal to people who'd sell your peace for their convenience because you think endurance is love. But real goodness doesn't look like that. It's not polite. It's not soft. It's not endlessly available. Goodness, at its purest form, isn't submission. It's power under control. It's the quiet strength that doesn't need to dominate, but never bows either. And that's the part most people never learn. They think strength corrupts goodness, when in fact, it completes it. They treat gentleness like weakness and mistake silence for surrender. But the truth is, the kindest hearts without edges get destroyed. Not because the world hates kindness, but because it doesn't respect what doesn't protect itself. The sharpest minds without empathy become tyrants, but the softest souls without strength become victims. Somewhere between those two extremes lies wisdom, the kind that can smile while holding a sword. Balance, that's the real intelligence. The ability to stay kind without being blind, to stay good without being predictable, to love deeply without losing the power to walk away. But to reach that balance, you must first let go of the fantasy that being good protects you. It doesn't. The world doesn't punish cruelty. It punishes naivety. It punishes those who believe that fairness guarantees safety or that purity earns protection. Because the truth is, people don't exploit evil, they exploit innocence. Machiavelli understood this long before anyone dared to say it out loud. He saw that morality without wisdom becomes self-destruction, that kindness without calculation becomes currency in the wrong hands. He wasn't teaching evil. He was teaching awareness. The kind of awareness that keeps your goodness from being devoured. The kind that saves good people from their own blindness. The blindness that confuses self-sacrifice with virtue and obedience with peace. Goodness without intelligence isn't virtue. It's vulnerability dressed as morality. If you've ever wondered why your loyalty wasn't returned, why your help was forgotten, why your honesty made people uncomfortable, It's because you are giving power without realizing it. Every time you compromise your peace to keep someone else comfortable, you're teaching them that your energy is free. Every time you explain yourself to someone who already decided not to understand you, you're giving them control over your confidence. That's the dark psychology of goodness. It convinces you that sacrifice equals virtue, when in truth, it often equals disappearance. True power begins the moment you stop trying to prove you're good. When you stop explaining your intentions and start watching outcomes. When you realize that silence can be kinder than justification. That walking away can be holier than forgiveness. That protecting your peace is not selfish, it's sacred. The world doesn't need more agreeable people. It needs people with controlled fire. Those who can be gentle without being weak, and just without being naive. Because real goodness isn't the absence of darkness. It's the ability to walk through it without losing yourself. It's not how softly you speak, but how clearly you see. So if you feel exhausted from being the good one, maybe it's not because you gave too little. Maybe it's because you gave without measure. Maybe it's time to redefine what goodness means to you. Stop equating peace with silence. Stop mistaking patience for passivity. Stop confusing love with endurance. The truth is, the more evolved your goodness becomes, the quieter it gets. You no longer rush to prove your purity. You don't broadcast your empathy. You simply observe, choose, and act with precision. You don't fight to be liked. You choose to be respected. You don't say yes out of fear. You say no with grace. The most intelligent kind of goodness doesn't exist to please. It exists to protect. It protects your energy, your focus, your integrity. It doesn't shrink for comfort or stretch for validation. It's calm, deliberate, and yes, sometimes misunderstood. But that's the price of clarity. You can't be both universally liked and internally free. You must choose one. So here's the truth most people will never accept. Being good is easy. Being wise about your goodness, that's rare. Because it requires you to face your motives. To ask yourself if you're kind because it's right, or because you're afraid to be rejected. If you're selfless because it's noble, or because you've been taught that your worth depends on how useful you are. Most people don't want to know the answer, but those who do, they become untouchable. Goodness, when mastered, becomes a form of power that doesn't need to shout. It doesn't beg. It doesn't explain. It simply moves with quiet certainty, knowing exactly when to yield and when to stand firm. That's what makes it dangerous. That's what makes it divine. At the end of the day, the world doesn't remember the ones who were merely nice. It remembers the ones who were good and unbreakable. So don't let your kindness become your cage. Let it become your strategy. The goal isn't to stop being good. The goal is to stop being predictable. Because when your goodness has boundaries, your light stops attracting wolves and starts commanding respect.